Council meeting is called to order.
Roll call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019 at 9 a.m. Mrs. Arrington, Ms. Allen, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon by phone. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Madam President, if I may, I'd ask as we enter into this moment of silent meditation that we remember those in our community that are less fortunate than we are in any and every way, locally and globally, and also ask our God and Creator to give us the right information and the right attitude to be able to make the best decisions for the citizens of the City of Erie. Pledge allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes from the City Council meeting of December 19th, 2018, and bills for payment on December 28th, 2018, and January 4th, 2019. Ms. Allen, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington. At this time, we have a resolution sponsored by Mrs. Arrington, seconded by Mr. Kwiatkowski. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that City Council nominates Councilman James Winarski as President of City Council for 2019. Ms. Allen, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all. Stay on the high side, so I'm not shorter than you. I'm always shorter than Mal. I don't want to be shorter than you. On behalf of this City Council, we'd like to give Sonia a President's Award here for her service in 2018 as Council President.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
When you get settled, Mr. President, we'll continue on with repository sales.
Thank you very much. Do we have any repository sales here today? Any repository sales this morning? Hearing none. Brings us to citizens to be heard. Doesn't appear anybody was signed in, so please come forward.
First of all, congratulations, Mr. President, and welcome back, Councilman Jones. Jason Brindle, 4131 McClellan Avenue, Erie, PA 16510. Happy New Year, Mr. President, Erie City Council, Mayor Schenberg Administration, and fellow Erieites. Recently, Ashtabula County, Ashtabula, just announced a $500 million pig iron plant. Several years ago, Chautauqua County, Dunkirk, is constructing a $200 million Anthix biotech plant. Last year, Lord and GE in Sigertown and Grove City, PA, with a combined asset total over $100 million, are building two plants or expanding their plants. Combined, over 1,000 new jobs, temporarily or permanent. As we have embraced the service and cyber industry well, here's a strong suggestion that I think they should be looked at. Since you've signed with over 200 mayors across the nation on renewable energy in the city and to move forward with innovative ideas about creating these family-sustaining jobs, after watching From Paris to Pittsburgh and Fahrenheit 11.9, Erie has a serious chance in creating new ways to light and heat our homes and businesses, plus cut our costs for our citizens. I've heard from citizens, and citizens have spoken here about renewable energy. By the way, Mayor Schenberg, the Sierra Club has a pledge just like the one you signed last year. It's called Mayors for 100% Clean Energy. Check that out. I am on board with this. Do you know how many companies right now are looking for sites to expand and grow in the clean energy industry? Erie can be a part of this changing world, possibly being a city for 100% clean energy. Let's put our thinking caps on and think about this. Don't laugh. Floating solar panels on Lake Erie producing power to the city of Erie and regions. Floating solar panels in our reservoirs and non-floating ones on these empty fields across these opportunity zones until plants, businesses, and industry come to the city of Erie in these opportunity zones. Let's not just laugh at that, like I said. We have a chance to take some of the burden of these old ideas and old technologies and move forward with these family-sustaining jobs, and we can balance out that equitable participation in the old technology plus the new technology. Just like Governor Wolf administration announced how Beaver County is going to get a cracker plant, let's think, because Erie has already several businesses and leading experts in clean energy. They're already homed here. I know we are working with the basics now to debut Erie as a site and a one-stop shop all about Erie. It would also give Erie in energy a boost in our community college quest, because that's the key to their success. They work well with community colleges, these energy industry leaders. From our world-leading colleges and universities, they could work well hand-to-hand with these 100% clean energy companies. Think about the students that come to Erie and the students that have chose to live here and that would like to stay here, because we're giving them a reason to. Erie can be home to more 100% clean energy experts, businesses, and companies. Pittsburgh has done it, and now it's time to Erie walk into the cleaner light with this and out of the dark ages. We can also have an equitable participation for all companies. As these $100 billion investments around downtown are coming true, like Erie Insurance, VelocityNet, and everything they're working on right now, I think 2019 should be about jobs, 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 and location, location, location. This will bring a little bit more of a positive perception, proactive, louder voice, and a productive collaboration with everyone working inclusively for the city of Erie. Many of our problems that we face today, like violence, poverty, social exclusion, food deserts, and discrimination, could fall and decline when we give our citizens these types of jobs that will make a difference. We're all on the same page, but our time is now, and our citizens/families can put food on their tables, our children can have a better path, parents can go to work happier, and live in an optimistic city that we can be better for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. I wasn't on the speaking schedule, but I thought you might not mind. I just came down to offer you some congratulations, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Laughlin. Could you please just state your name for the record
sorry.
and address? Thank you.
I'm kind of new to these city council meetings. This is Senator Dan Laughlin, and I'm here on behalf of the state of Pennsylvania. I'd like to congratulate you first, and I also wanted to reach out and let you know that if there's any help that I can provide through my office for city council and this region, feel free to ask Jim. I think you already have my cell phone number. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Randy Barnes, 109 Walton Point, Erie, Pennsylvania. I want to start off by saying we have no better goodwill ambassador than the current mayor. This man is always out. I think there's any kind of tax forgiveness, it should be for him because he's never home. With that said, I want to talk to council about the budget. Not the budget you just passed, because that's old news, the new budget. Because if you're not talking about the budget today, in the next meeting, and in between meetings, you're going to end up in the same place in November. You got to be questioning everything, every expense being spent. Why does it cost $25,000 for the mayor to belong to the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership? $25,000? Why does it cost $25,000? You know why it costs $25,000? Because you're willing to pay it. That's why it costs $25,000. Because you council people are willing to give $25,000 so the mayor can be a member. I think the mayor should be a member for $50. $50 is what you should send the Erie Regional Growth Partnership, okay? Save $24,950. Thank you. This bond in 2017, July of 2017, not all you council members, but many of you council members passed a $10 million bond. Show me today, or point in the direction of the building, the infrastructure that you spent the $10 million on that's going to be here when my grandchildren are still paying on that bond. What did we do with that $10 million? That's a permanent thing that our grandchildren will at least be paying on, because we're going to keep refinancing these bonds. I wish someone would track which bond we are actually ever paid off without refinancing. Because you're being told bonds are the answer, loans are the answer. Let's borrow our way to prosperity. If that was the case, we'd all go over to the bank today and borrow $1 million. And then next year at this time, we just go back and borrow another $1 million. And we just put off the payments because we hope more people are going to move in the city. I want to tell you about this hope thing, because this hope is like if. I want to do an easy math number for you. Today, 1,000 jobs are created in the city of Erie. 1,000 jobs today. 1,000 people move into the city of Erie and live in the city of Erie and go to work at those 1,000 jobs. Those jobs are good jobs because those jobs pay $100,000 a year. They have to start today. 1,000 people moved in for a $100,000 job. You know how much taxes you're going to get from that? $1 million. What are you going to do with $1 million to balance this budget that's way out of whack because of all these bonds you keep refinancing? Do the math. 1,000 people move to the city today, and they all take $100,000 a year jobs. They don't move to Mill Creek, Fairview, Harbor Creek, Lawrence Park, Summit. They move to the city of Erie, 1,000 people today, $100,000 a year. You get 1% of it because half, goes to the school district, so you get 1%. You get $1 million. So you think this hope, you're going to follow this leader down this hope trail, you're going to fall off the cliff, because hope isn't the answer. Hoping people move in the city isn't the answer. You got two issues here. These are easy. I think you can follow along here. Two issues. You got a revenue, you got an expense. You got to do one or the other. One or the other. What are you going to do? You're going to go follow this road the hometown banker says, borrow more money, finance some bonds, pay 2-3% fees right up front? I wish I had a glass of water. A little dry here, Jim, but I'll get through it. I warn you about these bonds. I went back to my notes from 2007. I've been speaking to council here for 11 years. I talked about these bonds in 10, 11, 12, borrowing money, putting it off. Hey, you got to come to the day when it's all due. Or you go to the old Bessie and you think, hey, this old cow, I can just get some more milk out of it. Well, guess what? This cow, called the citizens of Erie, we're running out of milk. We've given you a lot of milk and you keep asking for more, and we just don't have it. And all this goodwill stuff, that's like the cranberry sauce. Nobody talks about the cranberry sauce after the meal. It's nice to have, but the real hard work is the finance. Hey, thank you very much. Have a great year. See you soon.
Mr. President, are we able to ask Mr. Barnes a question?
Normally, we save that for the end during our committee reports. As a council rule, we're normally not supposed to get involved with the dialogue.
But you can make an exception if necessary. I mean, one time.
Since it's the first of the year.
Yeah, why not? Let's start off on the right foot. I tried to be civil.
Go ahead, Mrs. Schaaf.
Mr. Barnes, when you state your residence, you state Walton Woods.
Walton Point, it's 16511.
That's
That's not in Erie, yeah, it's a Harbor Creek address, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning and Happy New Year. John Buckner, representing the Erie Downtown Partnership and the many members that we serve in our downtown community. I too want to congratulate you, Mr. Winarski, on being appointed president of the Erie City Council. I'd like to thank you, Mrs. Arrington, for your service this past year. And as we look forward into 19 and how we as a collectively collaborating with many others to really do what's necessary to make our city much more vibrant and enjoyable for those generations to come. Thank you.
Good morning and Happy New Year, Council. My name is Chris Hilling. I'm here on behalf of Young Erie Professionals. Just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that one of our goals for 2019 is to have a presence at city and county council meetings, hopefully on a rotating volunteer basis, so I don't have to go to every single meeting. But we are looking forward to being part of the change that's happening here in Erie, and if there's any opportunities that we can get involved, we'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Mr. President, may I ask, Chris, your last name? Chris, excuse me, your last name? I didn't hear your last name. Hilling? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You all right?
Who's that, Mel?
Any other citizens to be heard this morning? Any other citizens to be heard? Hearing no more, Ms. Rose?
Ordinances for final passage. Council File 16060, official ordinance number 1, 2019. An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Erie, Part 9, Utilities and Public Service Code, Title 5, Sewers and Water, Article 933, Sewer Rental, Section 93302A, sewer rates by increasing the meter quantity per charge per 100 cubic feet per quarter for the first 70 cubic feet from 265 to 305, and the next 4,930 CF from $2.52 to $2.90, and usage over 5,000 cubic feet from $2.38 to $2.74, and by increasing the large volume user charges per 100 CF per month for the first 23 CF for $2.65 to $3.05, and the next 1,644 cubic feet from $2.52 to $2.90, and all other usage over 1,667 cubic feet from $2.38 to $2.74. By Mrs. Arrington and second by Mr. Winarski, the council file bill number 16060, and now known as official file ordinance number 1, 2019, be finally passed by the City Council. Ms. Allen, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. City Council pass official ordinance number 1 of 2019, finally by yea 7, nay 0. Council File 16061, official ordinance number 2, 2019, an ordinance amending the codified ordinance for the City of Erie, Part 3, Business and Taxation Code, Article 371, Earned Income Tax, subsection 37102D, by increasing the earned income tax for residents of the City of Erie from 1 1/1800% to 1 1/6500%.
Mr. President, I just wanted to let people know I'm voting no on this. I know we need the revenue, but this is just to follow up on my original no vote against the budget, which I was not happy with. So that's why I'm going to be voting no on the increase.
By Mrs. Arrington, second by Mr. Winarski, the council file ordinance bill number 16061, and now known as official file ordinance number 2, 2019, be finally passed by the City Council. Ms. Allen?
No.
Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. City Council passed official file ordinance number 2, 2019, finally by yeas 7, nays 0. Council File 16063, official ordinance number 3, 2019, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $28,000 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue to be received from the Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority and $11,000 to be received from Mill Creek Township for a total of $39,000 to carry out the multi-municipal collaboration project for which National Development Council will provide community and economic development training through a 4-day seminar as a remote training and certifications of municipal and township staff members. Sorry about that. By Mr. Kwiatkowski, sponsored by Ms. Allen, the council file ordinance bill number 16063, and now known as official file ordinance number 3, 2019, be finally passed by the city council. Ms. Allen, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. City Council passed official file ordinance number 3, 2019, finally by yeas 7, nays 0. Ordinances for first reading. Council file number 16064. An ordinance approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinance of Erie, Pennsylvania. By Mr. Winarski and second by Mrs. Arrington, the council file ordinance number 16064, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the city council. Ms. Allen, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance number 16064 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. Council file 16065. An ordinance approving the extension of the term of the existence of the Erie Regional Airport Authority for a term extension of 50 years from the date of approval of the Articles of Amendment. By Mr. Kwiatkowski, second by Ms. Allen, the council file ordinance number 16065, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the city council. Ms. Allen, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance number 16065 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. And just a note that council file number 16066 is pulled by council pending further information. And that'll take us into new business, Mr. President. By Mr. Winarski, seconded by Mrs. Schaaf. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie, receiving the communication from the Erie School District Board of Directors appointing Mrs. Darlene Feeney as a designee to the Erie Land Bank Board of Directors for a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2021. Ms. Allen, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Can we take a vote to remove the balance of the agenda?
Second.
Second. Is there any separations? A lot of transfers, but no separations.
All right, no separations, then moving the balance of the agenda, Ms. Allen, Mr. Arrington, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. That'll take us to committee reports, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Kwiatkowski?
Actually, no committee reports. It was a rather pleasant 2 weeks with my family, and I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, what's left of it, and happy holidays going forward. And congratulations to you, Jim, on your appointment as president. And to our outgoing president, I'd like to thank her for holding up well during this past year. It was a very interesting year, culminating with the budget. I want to thank her once again. She did a great job. And I know, Jim, you're going to do good going forward. And I want to also thank Curtis Jones. Congratulate him on his selection to council. And I think going forward, this is going to be a very interesting year. And I can promise you, as head of the Finance Committee, we will be looking at this budget in particular with a lot of scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaz. Ms. Schaaf?
Congratulations, Mr. Winarski, on your appointment to being on our City Council President, and I look forward to working with you this year. Thank you, Sonia, for your past service as President, and Mel Witherspoon, I hope you're feeling better, and hope to see you soon. We miss you. And I want to say that the recyclables have changed in that they do not want glass in the recyclables. No glass, no plastic cups, and you're able to have shredded paper as something set aside separate, and the items that can be recycled are in clear or blue plastic bags, or now you can purchase blue bins, and they are recycling newspaper, office paper, magazines. The shredded paper, as I mentioned, is separate. Cardboard, paperboard, aluminum cans, and metal food cans, plastic bottles, and no glass. Also, nobody listened to me in my neighborhood about trash pickup being a day late over Christmas, and that was the windy day, and it was all blowing around, and that was no fun. But that continues this week as well for New Year's, right? So it's a day later. I would like to say that this year, my attitude is be positive, and my positive acronym is positive with the P as purpose, to live a life of purpose. O stands for optimism, and to have optimism in our community around us. S is for servitude, and I wish to serve the people in any capacity that I am able to. I is for interest, to have interest in many different things around me. And T is for thankfulness. I am so thankful to be able to get up every morning. And intelligence, I'm going to try to increase my intelligence by going to the library more and remembering that you're never too old to learn things. There's a lot of educational classes that are out there, and many of them are free. So we can learn something new every day. V for vital signs, checking your vital signs, making sure you're okay. If that means to take a walk around the block and breathe in the fresh air and take time for yourself, that is important too. And E, lastly, for energy, to restore my energy in living a healthful life each day. So I'm going to put that acronym positive by my bedroom wall there and make sure that I go into a positive 2019. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you very much. Ms. Harrington.
First off, I would like to say congratulations, Jim.
Thank you.
And also congratulations, Mr. Jones. Glad to have you back. And next, I would like to say Happy New Year to everybody. And hopefully this year we can all work together to make Erie a better place to work, live, and thrive. That's it.
Ms. Allen.
I had a couple of things, no actual committee reports since I don't think there are any meetings between our last meeting and this one. But I think that the city is really going to benefit from the early intervention program. Even though I was concerned that a lot of the recommendations in the first early intervention program weren't followed, I think we have a new administration, head of the, a city planner committed to following through on the recommendations that will be coming from the newest consultant to come in and do an early intervention program for the city. I wanted to thank Chris from the Young Erie Professionals for coming, and it kind of fits in with a conversation I had at a New Year's dinner yesterday, because in addition to Young Erie Professionals, I think Erie is also gaining from maybe people like myself. I've been here for a long time, but baby boomers and empty nesters. I've met any number of them who've actually moved into the city of Erie in the last couple of years. There are people who move to Erie because their children are here, they want to be close to their grandchildren. And the person I talked to yesterday is a retired professor who urged the city to take advantage of what he calls people who have been repatriated to Erie. They have a lot of knowledge and expertise, and thinking about Mr. Barnes talking about what he thinks would be a fantasy about people actually moving into the city and working here. I wanted to point out that we do have a co-working space here, that with telecommuting, it is possible for people to actually move here and do their business elsewhere. And I read a really interesting story about the state of Vermont paying people to move to the state of Vermont. Now, I don't think Pennsylvania is going to be able to do that, but Vermont is really struggling with its population growth. But it's giving incentives. Instead of paying companies to move there or having tax incentives, it's saying, hey, you come here, you're an entrepreneur, we'll take you in Vermont. The final thing I wanted to mention is that I think a lot of people would have read the story in the Erie Times News about the EDDC going to the work that they're going to be doing on the properties, whatever the buildings are that they called. And we were shocked to find out that, at least according to that story, that the person who owned those buildings had not received building permits to do the renovations there. So council is going to be following up on that. I know my colleague Kaz Kwiatkowski has expressed concern in the past about people not taking out building permits. That is a loss of revenue to the city, and it just is something that needs to be tracked. And I Googled to see how other cities do that. I haven't come up with anything yet, but I do think that there are ways to be able to gather that data to make sure that contractors are taking out building permits, and as Kaz has said, that they would be for the correct amount of what the estimated work is going to be. So that's something I know council will be keeping tabs on in terms of revenue, making sure that people are following the rules. And that reminds me of one other thing we had talked about, borrowing a page from the mayor of possibly doing some brown bags led by council this year. I want to talk to my council colleagues about this. And one of the first things I think that we should follow up on, which we didn't have a chance to do last year, is to invite City Grows to come and explain how they are working on the Citizen Response Center and the other potential for gathering data and making the city of Erie and government truly a smart city. So we'll be talking about that some more. Kathy and I have been bouncing some ideas back and forth about that. I think we could also benefit from probably some type of brown bag lesson on technology and possibly an update from the city solicitor on right to know and open meeting laws, just to make sure that we do our kind of training that we always want everybody else to be well trained. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, congratulations again for your willingness to serve and in our collective agreement to allow you to serve as president this year. It's going to be a great year. Thank you, Kathy, for your affirmation and for your, I'm big on acronyms. I'm an acronymologist. Is that a thing? I think I just made that up. But it means a lot, so I value that very much. Mrs. Arrington, thank you very much for your service in the previous year and a couple years before, as we sat next to each other pretty closely for a couple years, and the measure of a person's strength is shown by what they're able to maneuver through, and so we're all showing our strength through what we can maneuver through, so thanks for that. Again, it's an honor to be able to have been selected to serve this 2019 appointed position. I have some things that I'm very interested in being a part of. Obviously don't have any liaison positions yet or committee assignments yet, but I'm looking forward to that. One of the things, Renee, if I could, I'd like to be able to connect with someone in the administration, whoever the appropriate person would be, to talk about something that's going to be really a passion of mine this year, is around the pilot and the payment in lieu of taxes program, to be as much as possible an affiliate or a connection with what the administration's doing. I probably have a few ideas that could add to the recipe of success. I think that's a big deal for us. We're talking about revenue generation. So I would love to be a part of that in any way possible. Community engagement, Chris, young Erie professionals, anything that I can do, as well as Liz also said, that we want to, and it is necessary for us to pass mantles and batons and bring people in and engage them in all spheres and demographics of communities. So anything that I can do to be a part of that in this 2019 season, I'm able and willing to do that. CDBG, I know this is that time of year when applications are coming in and all of that, so I was excited to hear this morning that the process has been tweaked a bit, where council has more engagement and more involvement opportunities based on our availability to be a part of that process. So I look forward to being a part of that process and seeing what changes have already been made. This next month or so is going to be kind of like crash course and figure out what's new since last year, right? So, or the end of 17. So I'm looking forward to all of those processes. To my fellow council members, anything I can do from a somewhat historic perspective, but I'm going to be calling on you for like the current stuff that I can kind of catch up on as well pretty quickly. There was one other thing. Well, I'll just end with this. Hope, someone mentioned hope earlier in a somewhat possibly condescending way, maybe. I don't want to put words or intent in people's mind or heart, but hope as if it was a negative thing. But hope is an absolutely wonderful thing. But hope plus hard work is what we need to be doing in this community to see the success and see the victories and see the wins that are available for us. So I don't want to discard hope. I don't want to discard hard work, but you put them together and we'll get what we're looking for. So I'm willing to keep hope alive, as I believe it was Reverend Jesse Jackson said back when I was a little boy. Keep hope alive. We can still do that, but it's going to take hard work to bring it into reality. And finally, I want to get to the point where there's certain areas where I don't have to hope for anymore. I don't want to hope that people love being in Erie. I don't want to hope that people love what we have to offer. I don't want to hope that people think it's a good place to live and I can get a good job, hopefully. When there's hope, that means it's not yet manifested. So we want to make those things a reality, and that's where hard work comes in. So thank you again for allowing me to be here and be a part of the team, and I look forward to all that this year has to offer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Witherspoon, and please speak up.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to thank Mrs. Arrington for her leadership in the past year. She did an outstanding job. I want to welcome you back to the chair. I'm pretty sure you're going to do a good job, but we'll evaluate that at a later date. Welcome back, Mr. Jones, Councilman Jones, past president. Glad to have you back. Mr. President, we need to make sure Mr. Jones remember the 5-minute rules on the report.
I did pretty good, Mr. Witherspoon, I thought.
Because Rose wasn't timing you today.
Anyway, all serious, I'm doing well. Still homebound right now, still off work. But I thank Rose and her team in the office for keeping me updated on emails and attachments, etc. So thank you. Happy New Year's to everyone, of course, our citizens as well. Thank you, Mr. President. You have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Controller.
I do not have anything. Starting out the new year right.
Renee.
Good morning. I'm going to keep it short. I just want to say Happy New Year. And, we're looking forward, the administration is looking forward to working with all of you. We're looking forward to the results of the EIP report. We have high hopes that they will come out with some systemic changes that we can make because our current situation is unsustainable, and I think we all realize that this year. And we're looking forward to looking at some big changes that we can make that will have a positive impact on the budget and on this community. So I look forward to working with all of you on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I won't bother you too much, Ed.
Well, I actually have something good to share with you.
Okay, thank you.
So I will speak. This year, we made a decision to bid out insurance services, which has not always been done for different reasons. But One Beacon had been our provider, and our service had been very good, but our total cost was $504,599 for 2018. When we bid it out, Paul Lichtenwalder and Chris Moore with the city were instrumental in doing that, but our price now is $395,810, and our deductible goes down from $50,000 to $10,000.
Nice.
So it's a savings of $108,789 for the city with less risk. There's some change in how we'll have to operate with that, but that's a pretty awesome and somewhat mind-blowing result. So we save $100,000, so we're in pretty good shape, at least on the insurance end. And our new provider will be Travelers Insurance, a reputable company. So that's all I have, and Happy New Year.
We like good news.
Mr. President, can I just ask a quick question? And that's with not a lot of, a lot less service or benefit? I mean, it's still comparable to what we were?
Everything's the same. It'll be a little bit different. We had a little bit greater burden and authority to run certain cases. We'll have less authority, but also less burden. I think the quality of service will be comparable. There's a few things still to work out. Probably not appropriate for a public session, but I'm pretty happy. Paul was pretty happy from the finance end of it. Chris from the insurance end. I think this is a great thing, but it's comparable. Some things are going to have to change the way we operate internally, but we'll make those changes. So it'll be a good thing for all of us.
It'll be a slight variation of how we've been self-insured, and certain independent things we could do will be tweaked, but it's just a process.
Right. With the higher deductible, you're much greater self-insured. A lower deductible, the risk is much, much lower, but there's a little bit less control.
Sure.
But I'm okay with that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to thank my colleagues for having the trust and confidence in me in leading this council in 2019. I've always been the guy that glass is half full, not half empty. I think 2019 can be a good year for this town. It really, really can. We got to work together. I appreciate our senator coming here this morning, John Buchna, Chris. Thanks for coming and being a part of this and opening the door to let us know you're there for us if we need you, as we are if any conversation or anything needs to be done on our end. I know Kaz mentioned leading our finance committee and being the chair. I talked to him, I think it was yesterday. I asked if he would do that. He did a great job during our budget sessions. Did we get everything we wanted during our budget sessions? Probably not. But we came up with a lot of ideas and a lot of foresight, and I believe Kaz is going to be the leader of that, take it by the horns, and with this council, make some productive finance meetings, monthly finance meetings to, try to get more revenue for this city, try to save some money for this city. Thank you, Kaz, for accepting that position. I do want to please remind council as well as the citizens, we have rules of council, and one of them is 5 minutes. We appreciate when our citizens obey those rules. As Mel said, I ask our council people during their committee reports to also listen or obey those rules, because it just shows the right thing to our citizens. Other than that, I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Look forward to a very, very, very productive 2019. Thank you. I think that's it, huh, Rose?
Okay. City Council adjourns at 9:47. Mr. Winarski, Mrs. Allen, Mr. Zarrington, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Shaw.
Good job, Winarski.
Mr. Witherspoon.
Happy New Year.
Good to see.
Hello. We have you on.